We have been doing rankings long before I joined US News. In fact, I myself ended up using US News to look for my graduate school.
Welcome back to IT Visionaries. I'm your host, Chris Brandt. Today, I'm joined by Vineet Mahajan, Chief Technology Officer at US News and World Report.
We have decades of structured, trusted data across education, healthcare, personal finance.
He and his team have been guiding a major shift, growing the company's capabilities in data, personalization, and AI.
We have been doing data science before data science became a word. So when I came in here, I realized that the real value was in the data behind these rankings.
From evolving the consumer experience to experimenting with agentic AI, Vineet brings a thoughtful, practical lens to transformation at scale. There's a lot to learn here, so let's get into it. Vineet, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me here.
I'm excited to have you here because I think US News and World Report is a really interesting publication. It was kind of an unusual property as a magazine in some regards, just from all the reports that you would generate. But it's taken on a completely different life in this technology era that we're currently in, this internet era. But before we get into that, I would love to know a little bit more about who you are and how did you come to be at US News and World Report? What's the background that brought you to all this?
So, Chris, I have been in the technology space for more than 25 years. And prior to US News and World Report, I was CTO at two other places, SmartBrief and at AWOL Media. So what drew me to the US News was the chance to lead a digital transformation for a brand that already had massive trust and reach. Hundreds of millions of people globally rely on it for making the important decisions, whether it's about the schools, healthcare, autos, etc. But the technology stack and the infrastructure and product experience really needed a reboot to stay competitive in the digital world. So for me, it was an opportunity to re-architect the entire platform, bring in cloud, data, and artificial intelligence, not just as the backend tools, but as the real drivers of growth and innovation. So it felt like a great challenge and a chance to make a meaningful impact. So that's why I came over here.
It sounds like it's kind of the thrill of the challenge that was driving you to make that decision to go over to US News and World Report.
Absolutely, yes.
You've got a bunch of things in your background there, from AI to cloud, to just data analytics. What would you say is sort of the thing that, the passion that drives you in that space?
The passion that drives me in that space, and the technologies change all the time.
Yeah.
For me, the most important thing is how to turn the technology into a growth driver. So not just focusing on delivery or the latest technologies, but actually driving the user experience, user engagement, and long-term values for the company that I work for.
Why do you think you went down the CTO road? I mean, what was it about that sort of position that appealed to you?
So in general, I think it was a natural evolution for me. So I started my career as a software engineer, worked as an architect, then worked as a consultant also, IT management consultant for some time. Over the period of time, where I saw the value of technology is not just, as I said, implementing the solutions, but how it can transform the whole business. That's what I really loved about technology, and especially in the role as a CTO, where I combine both my technology background with my business acumen. That's really got me interested into the CTO role.
And on that, sort of transformational technology, you landed at an interesting place at an interesting time, right? Because when we look at sort of the traditional media landscape, the old magazines and all of that, it's kind of gone away largely. And so many publications have tried to reinvent themselves to stay relevant in the era of, everything else that's going on, Google and AI and everything, right? Where content is just everywhere. US News had a very kind of technical aspect to it to begin with, because it was doing a lot of data analytics. So could you speak to, how you saw when you came to US News, what were the big opportunities you saw? I can change the direction of this and really transform this business.
US News is always known for its ranking. So that's what it is most famous
Right.
for. So when I came in here, I realized that the real value was in the data behind these rankings. We have decades of structured, trusted, data across education, healthcare, personal finance, autos, and so forth. So that sparked a shift in my thinking. It's not just a traditional media company. So the questions that I asked along with other execs was, how can we use this data to help people make smarter decisions? That's what led to building the new product and insights, first for the consumers, then for the institutions through our B2B SaaS offerings. So that's what brought the change. To support that, obviously, we had to modernize everything. We had to move to the cloud. We had to strengthen our data infrastructure, improve our user experience and cybersecurity, and layer in the AI on top of it. So it has been a full transformation from more of a content brand to more of a product and a data-driven business.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting way to look at how the brand plays out, because I mean for me, I looked at U.S. News college ranking guides for my daughter going to school. I mean, like, I beat that to death, looking through all of those things. I mean, you guys have a tradition of a lot of really interesting data. And it's not just, I mean, I think the college reports are probably the most famous, but could you speak to like some of the other areas that you guys are covering?
Well, yeah, we cover healthcare. We are very big in the healthcare, our hospital rankings. We are in the personal finance, for example, the credit cards and the loans and all that sort of stuff. We are also in the autos business, our rankings and the ratings for the cars. It's very famous in that vertical also. And so are we in the travel vertical and the real estate vertical. So there are various other verticals that we have a good presence, but obviously we are most known for our education and healthcare.
It's interesting because you have a very kind of segmented audience already, right? I
Yes.
mean, you have like products kind of, even going all the way back, because you guys have been doing this for a long time. So you must have a tremendous amount of like longitudinal data and things like that of extreme value to the people who are in those markets, right?
Yes.
Because there's two pieces of this, right? There's sort of the front-facing piece that the customer sees, and then there's sort of all that stuff on the back end is, like managing all that data, working with that data, doing the analytics
Yes.
and all that. Could you speak to like how that aspect of your business works?
Yes. And it has evolved again also in that case.
Right.
We always had a high intent audience. People come to us when they are making big decisions, like you were mentioning, for example, choosing a college or finding the doctor. But for a long time, those visits were pretty one and done. You come there, you see the information, and you don't come again for a long period of time. So, what we have focused on is turning that into an ongoing relationship. For that, we have implemented registration, we have added AI driven recommendations, we have built newsletters, we have built mobile apps. So, the idea is to stay helpful even when the users are not actively searching. We have also invested in our first party data. That has been a big push for us, as well as CRMs to better understand our users and personalize their experiences.
If you're a technology leader, you know speed, scale, and flexibility aren't optional. They're table stakes. That's why companies like yours are turning to Brightspot. Brightspot is the leading content management platform built for modern teams. Your content lifecycle, from ideation to archival, moves faster, handling any volume, variety, or velocity with ease. Unlike legacy platforms that demand heavy dev work and struggle with scale, Brightspot is user-friendly, endlessly customizable, and enterprise-ready. Think dynamic, modern experiences shipped in minutes, not months. Trusted by some of the world's leading tech organizations, Brightspot reduces total cost of ownership, boosts productivity, and gives you the governance, security, and performance your team needs. Visit brightspot.com/ITvisionaries to learn more.
So, to answer your question, it's really about moving from a single interaction and building the systems to support it to a more continuous, meaningful connections with our users. That's what we are very much focused on.
And I would assume that stays within the specific vertical you're keeping them, but just enriching that vertical, or do you find that you can move them from like one vertical to
Oh,
another?
no, that is the whole idea behind it. We want them to move from one vertical to another. So think about it, somebody who comes for education, as you mentioned, the education for your kid, you may also be looking for the next car for your teenager. So we want you to
Right.
move across. Hopefully you stay well healthy all the time, but sometimes you may need a doctor help. So you want to use us for that information also. And similarly, if you have any questions or information need for the personal finance, we want you to be using us for that also. So what we do is we create profiles of the users. That's where we have invested a lot of our time, create the unique profiles of a user based on your behavior. And that's how we personalize the offerings for our users, want to keep them engaged.
When you say first party data, that's the data that you're collecting.
Yes,
like you
absolutely.
mentioned the CRM. So is that just for the users on the site, or is that just first party data collection for the data analytics that you do across the verticals and things like that?
So it is used in both the cases. It is the initial idea was to start collecting this data to make our products more useful for our users. So that's where we started it. We started collecting the data for our users through registrations and a bunch of other ways. But we obviously use it for the data analytics also. Again, the idea there is use this data analytics to improve our products further.
Yeah, and I got to mention, because you guys have been doing this for a long time, there's probably not a lot of sources of that kind of longitudinal data that you guys might have that I would imagine you could use it in very unique and interesting ways, especially when you look at the world of AI and, utilizing your own data to drive some of that as well, right?
Yes. So you have to think about it, for a long time for us, it was very much content business, rankings business. It was all about creating quality content that ranked well on the search engines, got traffic, and we monetized it. So, as I said, we had a high intent audience, but the engagement was short term and pretty tactical. So, as we moved more towards a data driven business, more towards performance marketing, we had to focus on the real outcomes. How are we engaging the users? How are we converting them into the leads? How are we getting them to come back to our site? So, that shift wasn't easy. We had to modernize the tech. As you said, we had to bring in big data, we had to bring in AI, we had to bring in the new talent and upskilling our teams. It was a big cultural shift, not just a tech one. Also, with the new things like the AI mode and the AI overviews in Google search, that is impacting the traffic across all the various sites across the internet. So I'm glad the focus that we put on the value and the deeper engagement is more important than ever before. We don't want to rely on the search engine rankings anymore. What we are trying to build is real, ongoing value and direct relationships with our users. And for that, we are using all these technologies, data, AI, machine learning, and so forth.
You mentioned you don't want to have to rely on the search engine rankings. That model has changed a lot too, in the sense that now it's becoming more AI driven as well.
Yes.
And so some of the things that you need to do to make yourself found in that world are different. How are you approaching that problem?
We still do want to use search engine rankings as much as
Right.
possible, but
Of
not the
course.
only
Yeah,
source.
sure.
The way we are approaching that is using the first party data, having a big emphasis on that, and using AI as well as the personalization. So, first party data is huge for keeping the people engaged. It helps us actually understand who our users are, what they need, so we are not just guessing. That means we can also personalize their experiences, whether showing the right product at the right time, sending useful newsletters, or guiding them with the tools like the chatbots. So that is where we are putting in a lot of emphasis. It's really about being more helpful more often, not just during a one time visit, but throughout the journey. That's what keeps people coming back to our site.
Half of it is just sort of when they show up, making sure that they have a rich experience. But it sounds like you're doing a lot of outreach too. You mentioned, like newsletters, mobile, promotions, and registrations and subscriptions and things like that. I mean, like what are all the tools in your basket to keep people engaged? I think that's a really hard problem for so many companies to solve.
Absolutely, and we are using all these tools. So we are using registration, we are using newsletters, we are using mobile optimized website, mobile apps as well. So registrations help us learn what user care about. That's how we collect initial data, and then we also collect the behavioral data as a part of our first party data. And all this data we then use to personalize their experiences, both on site as well as the off site. Newsletters help us to stay in touch with our users through the helpful content, while the mobile, it makes it easy to engage with our users anytime, anywhere. So, together, all these things help turn one time visits into an ongoing relationship.
Could you speak a little bit about, I mean, because you guys were like really early on semantic search, right? And Gen AI. I mean, one, could you probably just define semantic search for everybody? Because that may be a term not everybody's heard. But also just sort of speak to like why you were early in on that and what you saw the opportunity and value in that.
So the idea behind the semantic search is to help people actually find what they need. It tries to understand the meaning and the context, not just the keywords. It's more like trying to understand the context of the search. For a long time, our search is very much based on the keywords, and then obviously there was page rank stuff in the Google, then there were knowledge graphs and stuff. But the semantic search is where you try to find out what a user actually needs, not just what they are typing into the search box. So it helps our users to find the right college or a doctor or a car. So we launched this semantic search on our main website. So you can go there and try it out. Gen AI was the natural evolution. So what we did with the Gen AI is we took all our structured content and turned it into something more useful and conversational. So for consumers, that meant smarter guidance through chatbots that understand their journey. We started creating the summary of our articles that save them the time, and then they can ask the questions for that articles. So we have the AI modules for that. And also we are using it for our product search. So, when you are searching for the cars or when you are searching for the doctors, we are testing how it can help us on that side. And on our B2B side of business, for our B2B SaaS clients, it helps us quickly unlock insights and the benchmarking for them against their competitors, as well as streamline the data summaries, which they can do without digging through the dense reports. So overall, the idea behind the semantic search and the Gen AI for us is to make our products more intuitive and a lot more powerful.
You have both the consumer side of the business and you have the sort of B2B side of the business. Could you speak to what the B2B side of the business looks like and what kind of products you kind of have that are unique to that side of the business?
On our B2B side of the business, we have something known as Academic Insights. It's a subscription-based online platform that gives the higher ed institutions like colleges and universities access to our historical rankings and survey data. So they can go and view detailed dashboard of their own and their peers' performance over the period of time. They can build custom peer groups and metrics, and then they can generate the trend reports. Basically, it helps the school administrators benchmark their performance and help them with the enrollment strategy, and they can also measure the change over the period of time.
Interesting. And so I assume like hospital rankings and
that's our
automotive
data insight.
It's all very similar to that.
Yes, it's again a data analytics solution, and it's very similar to that. Absolutely.
It seems like you guys are sort of uniquely positioned to leverage data. For most, what used to be magazines, there was not a lot of like that hard data to leverage like you guys have. And I've got to imagine that when you go to do, like a generative AI kind of implementation, you must have a ton of stuff to leverage in that case.
We are a data company. We have been doing the rankings for a long time. We have been doing the reviews also. But that data was primarily used for, all this underlying data was primarily used for creating the rankings. Now we are playing with this data and the content in various ways, how we can make it more useful, both for our consumers as well as our B2B clients.
Were there any kind of unique challenges with having that kind of longitudinal data, that long-term data, just a lot of data in building all of those?
Well, as you said, it's a lot of data. But it's a very clean data. I would rather say, in some of the places where I worked before, we had a lot of data, but it was not that well structured. So I'm very glad the sort of data that we have is very well structured. It's very well trusted. It's very clean data. So not a lot of challenges. It's the challenge is primarily on how to make it available to our consumers so that it can be used easily. There is a lot of data, but and the idea there is how to surface it in a way that can be very useful for our users.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you walked into a great situation, because usually that is not the case, where you
No,
walk in and your data is clean and good and usable. And especially when it's from that long of a period, like there's so many differences in the way that data was collected and stored, and standards that were used on the data and things like that. That can be such a nightmare with large data sets. What was the culture that, is it just kind of a research culture that got people thinking in terms of data management?
Oh yeah, we have very good data science teams. So we have been doing data science before data science became a war. So we have been doing rankings long before I joined US News. In fact, I myself ended up using US News to look for my graduate school way back. So that's the good thing, and I'm lucky I ended up having access to all the data. So all this data is very structured, very clean. On the other side, which I forgot to mention earlier, we also started using a lot of consumer data that we were not using before. So that is a big shift. That's a huge amount of consumer data that we are collecting now. The first party data about our consumers, about their preferences, and so that is just like any other big data problem with any consumer tech company. That's where we have to figure out how to efficiently transform it, how to efficiently store it, and how to use it for improving the experiences of our users.
Would you consider yourself kind of more of a data company now, more than a content company, I guess? How would you classify yourself?
The way we define it is it's more of a company which helps people make informed decisions. So it's like an information services.
When you look at this market in the data space, and the thing that's amazing to me is how much AI has changed in just a couple years. I mean, every 6 months, it's like a whole new industry. How do you stay on top of that? Because you can't go chasing just every trend, right? I mean, you're a big ship that needs to, make calculated moves.
Yeah.
How do you go about evaluating, the direction you should go in?
You're absolutely right. You think about AI 3 years back, then Gen AI was a big thing. Now Agentic AI is a big thing. Now general AI is also soon supposed to be a big thing. And after that, there is a super AI that is coming where Meta is putting in a lot of emphasis, I guess. So on our side, what we do is, rather than over planning, we lean into the POCs and the A/B testing. So that's a lot of emphasis that I put it in there. So we quickly try ideas, we learn fast, and double down on what actually drives impact for us. And that mindset keeps us agile and outcome driven. And that's how we make decisions, that what really makes impact for us.
Have you seen any technologies out there that look really compelling to you?
So right now, I'll definitely say the agentic AI looks really, really compelling to us.
And is it an agentic AI that you would be developing yourself, or would you be looking for third-party solutions for something like that?
We work with our partners. We leverage their solutions and integrate into us. The idea behind is using Gen AI or agentic AI-based tools to make our content and data more interactive and actionable. That's what we are looking into from the consumer side. And on the B2B side, we want to help our clients through smarter insights, through benchmarking and the automation. So that's where our sweet spot is.
Do you have any interesting use cases where you've brought agentic AI in and it solved a specific interesting problem?
We are building the tools that don't just answer the questions. So think about it. For the generative AI, we are using it to answer the questions, for whether through summaries or through the search. But through the agentic AI, what we are trying to do is to build the tools that actually take action on the user behalves. For example, comparing options or helping the user complete the task. And this is something we are testing. We haven't done it. So somebody is looking for the right school, we want to take the action on the user's behalf to submit the lead to the school.
Oh, wow. That would be nice.
So the idea is it's still the early days, but we want to move from the static tools to the real interactive guidance. That's what we are trying to do with the agentic AI.
Oh man, that would be a great use case, because I could see, like, just from having done it ourselves, it's, like there's certain criteria, and then, like, you gotta like go and fish for everything, and then like submitting everything and getting the right forms and all that. Like, to have agents, available to do some of that lifting for you would be fantastic. So hopefully it works out.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we also have, marketplace sites like Go2Sea for cruises, or we have a culture trip that we acquired. Even on the travel space, we want people to come and do the research with us. And eventually, we want to use these agent-based AI tools so that it makes it easier for them to travel their, cruiser to make booking for their cruises, or to make booking for their trips.
Yeah, it's funny how having all that kind of data can lead to an almost infinite amount of business models.
And that's
for a company
the
like
beauty
yours.
of it is. So, think again, people think of us more like the rankings thing, but we have these marketplaces also. We also have a business for, college advisors. It's collegeadvisor.com. So again, the idea there is we have built chatbot, which we are going to launch soon. Internally, we are already testing it. It can help people answer the question, what sort of the college advisor is the right fit, and then make an appointment with the college advisor.
Yeah, no, that sounds incredibly helpful. Is your legacy CMS holding you back? Slow rollouts, clunky workflows, constant developer dependency. It's not built for how your business needs to move today. Brightspot is the modern content management platform designed to power your digital transformation. It's composable, customizable, and built to grow with you. From robust workflows to real-time publishing and ironclad security. And the best part, our migration process gets you off your old system faster than you think. Join leading tech companies who've already made the switch. With Brightspot, your content operation becomes a growth engine, not a bottleneck. Learn more at brightspot.com/ITvisionaries and unlock what's next. With all this data, you're understanding more about what people are looking for and how they need to interact with their data. That leads to a lot of challenges, I got to imagine, around like data governance. And when you look at AI and sort of AI ethics and how you use AI and things like that, could you just talk about how you approach that problem?
That's a very, very important area for us. We want to use AI in an ethical way. And whenever we are using it, we are making sure that we are putting the right guardrails in place for it. We make sure there is no such wrong content or abusive content or hallucinations. So we are putting in the right guardrails in place for preventing all that sort of stuff. Also, because of some businesses that we are in, we have a very strong compliance requirements, and we make sure we are following those compliance.
Yeah, I mean, that's another great one. I mean, like regulatory and compliance requirements. And you guys are not just US based. I mean, you've got all the internet, and we just had DORA roll out in Europe and things like that. I mean, so there's a lot of, it seems like every day there's some new regulation. And if you look at it globally, it's nearly impossible to keep up with all the regulatory stuff.
We take care of all this compliance and work very closely with our legal team, who are a great partner. And whether it's GDPR, whether it's CCPA, whether it's SOC 2, so we are into all these things.
Yeah, there's so many crazy acronyms out there. I don't even. It's like it's hard to keep track, and then they keep changing because SOC used to be SAS 70.
Absolutely.
It's tough. So you walk into U.S. news and reports, and obviously since you've been there, you've been at the helm of a technology organization that's going through a tremendous amount of change. And change is hard for any organization to manage. Could you speak to sort of the strategies that you've been implementing to help your company, work through that level of change? And because there's a lot going on there. How do you keep it all on track?
There are a bunch of the things that we do over here. So first, most important thing for me is to make sure that the tech organization aligns well with the business. What really makes a difference for us in this case is having the shared OKRs.
Could you speak to what an OKR is?
It's an objective key results. It's a methodology.
Okay.
And it's through this methodology, and these are the shared objectives that we create, not just across product and engineering, but the company wide. And we do it every quarterly. Work on these OKRs. It gets everyone focused on the same outcomes. Also, we have I work very closely with the general managers. Each of our verticals have a general manager, and they help bring very clear accountability and faster decision makings across both the technology team as well as the business teams. Also, the idea here is we have I have put in various processes in place. For example, the agile process, as well as the design thinking process for our product design. And this has helped us to stay basically very much outcome driven. So all
Yeah.
these things, all these processes and the OKRs, as well as working with the various GMs, has been very helpful during this process.
Well, it's interesting because you guys are definitely a technology company. Like people might not say it, but I mean, like core to everything you do seems to be, technology in the background, and you've got a lot of stakeholders there. So that must be a lot of challenge to keep everybody marching in the same direction.
And that's where, Chris, the OKRs I have found have been very, very helpful. So as long as we have a very clear, defined objectives, and then we have a key results to measure those objectives, and then based on those key results, we come up with the roadmaps for various teams. So that sort of waterfall has worked out very well for us. So that's how we come up with the roadmaps, and it's all very transparent across the company. And the other thing that we have put it in place is, and I think we can further improve, and there is we are becoming more and more of quantitative. We measure everything that we do.
How does that play out? Because measurement's kind of tricky, because sometimes it's not just like measuring things, it's like measuring the right things.
You're
right?
absolutely right. Yeah.
So how do you make that work?
It's where we ask people to challenge themselves. It's not that if you do not reach, if you don't reach 100% for that key result, it's not going to be a problem. It's basically we are trying to challenge ourselves, and we want to be honest. So that's how we use these measurements. It's not to punish anybody.
Being honest with oneself doesn't sound like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's mostly for accountability and faster
No,
decision making. That's what we are using it for.
Yeah, no, and that's important. And I'm joking when I say I don't want personal accountability, but but it is important. It is important, and it's hard to do. How big is your organization?
Well, the technology organization is considering both the employees as well as the contractors, are 150 plus.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of people, and then you have every vertical has its own stakeholder. The overall executive team has their direction. I mean it's a lot of cats to herd.
Yes, there is. It's and not only that, again, I have been in the organizations, or I have led the organizations which are much bigger than this.
Yeah.
But the main challenge here is the way it is, across the verticals, we have different businesses, and then managing the technology for all these businesses, and the data, the consumer data, we want to keep it common so that we can have the repeat visitors, as we talked about earlier, that if somebody is looking for education, we want them to engage with them for their healthcare also, or for their autos also. So that's where the real challenges come.
Going forward, when I look at what you've told me about US News, I can think of like 1,000 different business models that I could go out to market with and just try to monetize. I mean, just because having that luxury of all that data is a great thing. What do you see like the direction of technology going at US News and World Report? I mean, what's next for you guys?
So in the immediate future, with all these changes happening, whether it's AI or agentic AI or shifts in the CO, our real focus, irrespective of the technology, is on deepening our direct relationships with the users. So that means building more personalized guided experiences that they don't rely on search as the only entry point. That is the most important thing for us. Basically, we want to use these technologies to make our content and data more interactive and actionable on the consumer side, and on the B2B side, again, use these technologies to get more value for our SaaS platforms. At the end of the day, it's all about, we want to be staying useful and relevant for our users.
So on a personal level, like what kind of things are you excited about?
Well, I'm really excited about this AI. When I was in my grad school doing my master's leading to research, I left after master's. My whole research was in the area of ontologies, basically similar to the semantics, semantic search. I worked very closely with my professor on that. We were, even in the late 90s, we were working on a project for ontology-based search or intelligent agent-based search for multimedia. Theoretical aspect was there, but the technology wasn't there.
Right.
Now I actually see the technology, and it's going beyond what I would have imagined at that time. I must say we are really living in the really interesting time. So personally, I'm really, really interested in all these the stuff that is going on the AI side, whether it's the generative AI or the agentic AI or the new forms of the AI that are coming in, and that's where I invest a lot of my time in.
And how do you stay on top of it? I mean, like we talked about earlier, it changes so rapidly. What do you do to stay on top of it?
I read books. I keep myself abreast through the various meetups we have in the DC area. I'm part of various groups like the CTO roundtable in the DC area. I go to various conferences, attend those conferences, present in those conferences, and we have a very good university relationships also. So that also helps us in staying abreast. That's how I get to know. We have relationship with the Maryland College Park, where we bring in the students from the school to work with us. So all these things helps.
It's moving so fast. It's not something that like you can get out of a college curriculum necessarily.
No, absolutely not.
So you have to kind of like leverage your relationships and networks to really learn about these things. It sounds like that's the direction you go too, huh?
Yes, networks help a lot, definitely.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned the CTO network. I think something like that's got to be really useful because there's got to be a lot of people facing similar problems, right?
Yes, and then in that roundtable we get the various companies. Some of the things that I learned, I heard their first time in that roundtable. So it's really helpful. Very, very helpful.
Yeah. I just want to say, thank you so much for coming on. When we look at a company like U.S. News and World Report, it's a really interesting journey. So the long arc of history we always talk about, U.S. News and World Report definitely falls into that. And it's cool to see a company that's kind of coming from a legacy industry really take its core competency and turn that into something modern and useful in the future. So it's a cool company, cool concept. Thanks so much for being on and sharing your wisdom about it all.
Thanks, Chris. And by the way, U.S. News and World Report is more than 90-year-old company.
Wow.
And we have reinvented ourselves, and it's a great place to work at.
Yeah, I love reinvention stories. I think that's because it's one of the hardest things to do. It's a lot easier to start new
Absolutely.
and build something than it is to just completely transform something. So, congratulations on what you've done, and looking forward to see what you guys do in the future. I can't wait for some more verticals.
Thanks, Chris.